Great. Nice haircut,
Alright.
Peter.
Thanks.
Okay, I think we are ready to go. It's 8:30 something. All right, I'm going to convene the meeting. It's January 20th meeting of the Land Bank at 8:32. And we will start the meeting with public comment. If there's anyone attending right now, by phone or by video, if they would like to make a comment or pose a question to the commission, this is your opportunity to do that. I ask that you give your name before you start. They can be comments or questions, but the commission is not in a position today to necessarily have to answer any questions, but we will make note of anything said. Is there anyone in the public domain that would like to make a comment or a statement?
Judy does.
Hand raised.
Oh, she was, okay.
Turn
Go
down.
ahead.
Better believe it.
No sound.
Cumming, former Land Bank staff member, now member of the public. And as much as I love attending these meetings, what I like even more is going on the trail walks. And so I wanted to commend this Shauna and the members of the staff that put together the trail walk at Beaverton Marsh Nuthouse Trail right after Thanksgiving. And it was a wonderful walk. I sent her a detailed letter about the other people that I talked to and all of their impressions. And then I enjoyed it a couple more times. And then after the snow, I knew that it was going to be chancy because she had warned us that trail might flood. Well, in addition to the flood and the snow, someone had taken horses and probably dogs in there. And the trail was quite damaged. And I did let Doug know that. And I guess there's some issues. There's not a possibility currently of having repair work done on that trail. So I just want to say, as a member of the public and a dog owner, it would seem perfectly logical to me if you closed that trail until the weather got better. Or it got repaired.
Good, thank you. Kathy Morris?
Hi, I have one comment and one question. My one comment is reading the REIT tax graph that is in the meeting packet. I think it's like maybe 12 years of lines, and it's kind of becoming really hard to read and follow the lines. So I'm wondering if a different format could be used if you need to do all the years, or maybe just do the last 5 years or something with the lines. But it's just becoming really hard to read. And then my question is, I'm wondering about the status of the property on Mount Entrance. If that is still, I talked to one of the neighbors and they didn't seem to know anything about it. So I just thought I'd ask what the status is of that. I mean, last I heard it was still for sale, so I'm not really sure. That's it.
Thanks. Lincoln, if that's something you feel comfortable commenting on in the director's report, maybe you could do that.
Sure, I will address that.
Anybody else in the public? I'm just kind of scrolling back and forth looking for hands being raised. I don't see any. Okay. The next thing is approval of the December 16th, 2022 meeting minutes. Any revisions or corrections?
Yeah, I have one, Krista.
Okay.
Screens. Okay. On a couple of things on page 2 of 3, under council liaison. Bear with me. Oh, the last sentence there. Christine also shared that liaison negotiations will take place in the new year, and it's possible someone else will be awarded the land bank. good to be awarded to somebody, but maybe we should say something like somebody else will be assigned as land bank liaison. It's a little clearer.
Sure.
We can make that change.
Okay. And
Uh,
then were you going to say something else, Lincoln?
Well, for the record, Christine was appointed our liaison again.
Okay, thank you. Then the very next sentence underneath that, Lincoln noted that there was a scheduling issue with a public hearing required by council in hopes to present the conveyance. I think we should specify there that I think we're talking about the conveyance of the Lopez Hill CE. And I realize that's called out to the right as well as a number of other things, but it wasn't clear to me on. And there's something else underneath that. Oh, I know. In the stewardship report down on the next page, Lincoln said the lease is still with the prosecuting attorney. The lease being, I think, Kaufeld Farm. I think those should be specified.
Okay. Anybody else? I just have a question at the bottom of page 2 where it says, and I may just not know this, but Washington Wildlife Recreation Coalition and WWRP. Is it coalition or program?
Yeah, so that there is a program, which is what the coalition supports. So yes, that should be WWRC.
Okay. Well, there we go. Anything else from anybody? Okay, I don't remember. Do we vote on this or do we just accept the minutes as corrected?
No.
Andy?
We can accept it as corrected.
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, the next item is chair and commissioner reports. Do any of the 3 commissioners aside from me have any comments to make?
No.
We did submit a meeting schedule for the next 6 months. You got that in your
my hand-
packet? Oh, sorry.
my hand
Okay.
raised.
Yeah. Go ahead, Cindy.
I had a phone call this week with Dave, and correct me if I have the last name wrong, Zaretsky, on San Juan Island. And one of the things that he wanted to make the commission aware of, and I believe they'll be presenting a proposal. He was speaking to me as a member of the Trails Committee, and it had to do with Old Military Trail, Road Trail. And this Trails Committee is working on bringing a proposal to us for signage for Zylstra Lake trails and other trails that we have, that they have funding for signage. And they know that they need to work with staff on that, but he was contacting me to make sure that the commission was aware of it and said he would put something together for the commission to see. There are local artists and wanting to do some interpretive signage, which sounded like a good idea. I know we like to be light on signage to keep things as natural as possible, but I think interpretive signage is always good. So just wanted to mention that, to be looking out for that in the future.
Great, thank you. As I started to mention, so we have a meeting scheduled for the next 6 months, and we had talked at the retreat again about revisiting extended meetings so we can look at a topic more in depth. So I'm just going to say tentatively, we should look at one per quarter. And I'm going to be I'll be out of the country in February, so handling an extended meeting might not work in February, but I'd like for people to make note on their calendars for the March meeting that it may be longer by an hour and a half or so, or whatever we decide is an extended meeting. We've got a couple different topics, but I suspect strategic planning may take up that extra hour and a half by March. So just to make a note of that. And again in June, although there might be something sooner than that if we get going with the strategic process. So that's one comment. And then I think
say,
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
On that subject, I just wanted to let you know that I'm also gone in February.
That's okay. I'll be on the call in February. I just won't be in a place where I can handle a long call.
Got it. Okay.
And then I had something else, but I think I'll bring it up under the new commissioner discussion. So that's all I have. Lincoln?
Yes, Sandy, are you going to be unable to attend at all in February?
That's my that I'm going on a little vacation.
Okay.
It's a very shorty one, so there's a possibility, but I had in my mind I wasn't. Is it something, if there's some business that has to transact that I must tune in for, I could probably make that happen.
So, Krista, I wonder if this might be a good time to talk about the appointment process for commissioners and
Sure.
the possible timing involved there.
We can do that. And I just looking back at Brian's question that he started to pose before Sandy showed up, we need to get clarification, since currently we have a commission of 4 because we have 4 seated commissioners, and I don't know if the vacancies count against us for a quorum at this moment. So if we could find out from somebody whether, since we have 4 people, is 3 a quorum, then Sandy could enjoy her vacation. Otherwise, we might have to have her on point. So what Lincoln's talking about is the appointment process for the candidates. Lincoln and I and Christine chatted earlier this week. We looked at the applications that we had. We kind of prioritized them for potential interviewing. And so the timing question is this. Lincoln's also trying to get away for a vacation, a little longer than a short one. He will be gone for 2 weeks and will not come back until February 6th. And that would mean we could, if we waited for Lincoln so the 3 of us could have a chat with the applicants, we would do that sometime the week of February 6th, and we would not be able to get any recommendations to council in time for our February 17th meeting. I think that's the date. So doing that would put bringing on new commissioners into the March meeting. We kind of wanted to do it with all 3 of us, but I said I would poll the commissioners now to find out if we are really wanting to get some people in place for February. Then Christine and I could do the interviews on our own. And then we think we could make a council meeting for approval before the February meeting. So I need to hear from the 3 of you how you feel about that.
I'll just throw in there that I'm comfortable with the 2 of you doing the interviews if that's the decision.
Okay. So Brian?
Just a question. Lincoln, you've met all of the candidates and talked with them?
I have met and talked with almost all of them. I know them all, but there are a couple I haven't had an in-depth conversation with.
Yeah. Well, I'm comfortable with that if you are comfortable with it.
Mike?
Yeah, I feel the same way, but Lincoln, is there a possibility that you could also give your feedback prior to leaving on vacation, or is that just not possible for you to circle all of the candidates?
Well, when we talked, we did come up with a subset of candidates for interviews. And I think we also talked through a little bit.
Okay.
We didn't actually make selections or anything like that, but I think I conveyed my impression of candidates. So I'm
Okay.
comfortable with the group we've got and with the interviews that are planned.
Okay, that's really what I wanted to make sure that you had input into, at least some input into this, so that we were guided by this and no surprises. So I also am okay, Krista, with your comment, with your the way you want to progress with just the two of you.
Sandy?
I too am comfortable with Lincoln's input and, also knowing that it's a council appointment, but the fact that we do get to make a recommendation, I'm comfortable with you as chair representing the commission on that. And then you have mentioned multiple times, and this would be a time I feel like to kind of stand up and scream about it, that the county really should change their timing on when positions get advertised and people get selected, so that boards aren't left empty seated going on a month or two in the new year. So if that, what we, nothing special for the land bank, but for all boards and commissions. This is an example of why it's problematic.
Yeah. I'll bring that up again when I talk to Christine, because she seemed to see the logic in that in our last conversation. So, okay, well, if that's the case, then we did have 6 applicants. I believe we decided to interview 4, and I'll talk to Lincoln before he leaves town to get the details of that worked out. We'll reach out to those people, and then it's Christine's calendar that we're looking at to see. She was going to look at dates both when Lincoln was gone and after if we were to wait for him. So have you heard back from her, Lincoln, on her calendar at all?
No, I did talk to her yesterday and she promised to get those dates, but I don't have them.
Okay.
I am here as well. And
Oh, good. I didn't see you got on. Thanks.
I don't know if I came in at about 8:45, which is good for the timing on the agenda for me to be here, but perhaps you guys went through the agenda quicker than typical. Anyway, if I haven't missed my time, I'll wait for it.
You haven't missed your time. You're coming. You're almost right there.
Thank you.
So do you want me to go through the other comments that I have about the candidates? They're the new commissioners, or do you want me to wait for that when Christine, that's kind of under her thing?
I'm not sure what you mean.
Okay, well, I'll just make a couple comments and related to the seating of the new commissioners. We talked a bit about already all the interview schedule and stuff. I'm going to put out a suggestion that, and maybe I can work with Tanya about this, but in looking at the land bank manual that we have and all the documents that are in there, we've got lots of great reading, but there's more than I think we need. So I've kind of identified what I think we should do is to, with the successful candidates who become commissioners, we should be providing them with some specific documents to get them started. And there is online, I finally found it, the current ordinance that governs the land bank. There's another one that involves the land bank and county parks. Those seem to be the 2 most pertinent ones. There's also one that is board and commission rules. And so those 3, and the code of conduct, which I think has gotten rolled into that chapter 2116 or something. But there are at least 3 documents that I think new commissioners might benefit from having. along with the most updated summary of the properties we own and the conservation easements that we have. You know, that one, I think we get it annually. I just couldn't find it, that lists each of the islands and the properties, the preserves we own, and then the other page is the conservation easements with the total of acreage and stuff. So if people are okay with that, with me checking in with Tanya or someone to get those documents ready, or links, at least links to the documents, I think that would be helpful. Plus a summary of all the commissioner contact information. Mike.
Okay, I think I was, I think, the last new commissioner, and I think the place where I ended up, and this may be my background and my responsibility, but the place that was hardest for me to get up to date with was understanding the financial situation, how we separate out acquisition in general from sustainability, and where the money comes from and where it's going, et cetera. And I would just suggest possibly a short meeting with Aaron and the new commissioners as he goes through our financial situation, gives them the context of which we operate under. And I think that it rather than just giving the financials, which are a little difficult to understand anyway, having him do that would be, I think, a real benefit for new commissioners.
Yeah, I agree. Judy did that for me and it was very helpful. Any other comments, Sandy?
So I might suggest on tailing on that comment from Mike that that summary is put in a written form. That could be something that even the public, they're looking at the documents. It's just sort of a little overall explanation that explains what they're looking at. There's a conservation area fund, a stewardship fund. This is how this happens. This happens. Every year we donate a certain amount, just a short summary. It can be the same thing or similar what Aaron's reviewing, but it would be helpful. I would even like that because I still feel sometimes at a loss to interpret exactly what I'm seeing. So.
Okay, thank you. Aaron?
Yep. Glad you brought that up. I was talking to Lincoln earlier this week. I'm working on making a virtual copy of the commission binder that is shareable on SharePoint and giving you guys access, and it can be updated easier, include what is needed. Might be easier for you guys to find, so you don't have to have this 3-ring binder and keep track of that, but it'll all be kept on a folder on our SharePoint access. So I was talking to him about that, and so I think it's a great time that we brought this up. It was an idea, given that we're going to have 3 new commissioners. So I'm more than happy to, obviously take everybody's input and work with you, Krista, and figure out in Lincoln, and we'll get an updated binder virtual for all the commissioners that has really what we want in there.
Great. Brian, did you have your name? Yeah, Brian.
Yeah. Krista, you mentioned a couple of minutes ago something that I didn't know, which is that we have apparently candidate 3 positions now. Is that correct?
We have you cut out. We have a candidate for each position.
Oh.
We have more candidates than we have positions. Yes.
Yeah, okay. I didn't know that. We have met 3 of the candidates. We have 3 positions open. So how does that work in terms of, I think we have 2 district positions and 1 at large. So there's, how do I say this? Which position is the extra candidate, the 4th candidate applying for?
Well, it depends who gets there first, Lincoln or me. we had this discussion with Christine Minnie, and it rests with Christine, how that at-large position is filled. We have 3 candidates from San Juan. We have 3 from Lopez. We didn't have any current applications from anyone on Orcas. So that's part of the decision is made right there. And Lincoln and I pitched different reasons to have different people from each island in that at-large position. So I think now we'll just wait until we've done the interviews to see kind of how things settle out.
So what I'm understanding is that the 2 district positions would be picked first, then there would be 2 candidates for the remaining at-large position.
Yeah, I guess that's how you would look at it. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess I would leave that conversation between you and Lincoln then. And Christine, of course.
Yeah. And then Sandy, did you have another question?
Yes, when you were making a list of materials to supply to the new appointees, I was wondering if the flow chart of process might be helpful.
I think that would be great. We'll put the flow chart and there is the document of acquisitions, and I can't remember the whole title to that, but if that is pretty current, we could include that. And that complements the flow sheet or the flow chart. Okay, great idea. And then if there's not, I don't want to belabor this, but the other thing that comes to mind with this is that, and this applies to actually the whole commission, I don't know the last time we had an Open Public Meetings Act primer on how open meetings are supposed to go and public records. I think I've had it a couple times since I've been on this commission, but I've had it on other commissions, and with 3 new commissioners coming on. I think we've had Amy Vera's come and done it in the past, but I'm just going to throw it out there that I think we might look at everyone getting updated. And now there are a couple places you can do it online. It's quite easy, and so I will get those links to you guys, and we will include that to the new commissioners. But I think it might be, some organizations are supposed to do it annually. I don't know if we have that restriction, but I think it's probably time that everybody reviews that anyway. If people are comfortable with that. Goes pretty fast. I can't remember the website, but I'll send the links. That would be great. And okay. That being said, now it's time for partner update from the Preservation Trust, and Vicki Edwards is with us this morning.
Thank you, Commissioner Campbell. Hello, commissioners. Great to see you all this morning. I have 3 project updates for you all. The first being, of course, Lopez Hill Preserve Edition Conservation Easement. We are looking forward to finalizing that acquisition with you all by the end of February. Lincoln, with you heading out on vacation, if there's anything we can do to assist in working with Sally Rogers and the council on that public notice, please let us know. We're more than happy to help. But we're excited to move that project forward and get that finalized, hopefully, once approved by the council by the end of February then. And then our second project that I wanted to mention is the North Shore Conservation Easement on the Glenwood Inn property. Kathleen Lewis is our lead project manager on that conservation easement, and recently met with Peter on the property to talk about some of the future management and some of the terms within the conservation easement. Thanks so much, Peter, for all your great work and your ongoing work on that. It's much appreciated. And so that is moving along really smoothly, that aspect of the project. We have encountered a challenge with our funding source. As you all know, we've got a little over a $3 million budget on the conservation easement acquisition. We were able to secure through the Salmon Recovery Funding Board a little over $900,000 of that. We'd also put in a request, and that's as with the Land Bank as a co-sponsor to the PSAR program, the Puget Sound Acquisition and Restoration Fund, for the remaining $2.1 million. The governor's budget was released in early January for the PSAR program, and unfortunately, it does not include enough to cover the North Shore Conservation Easement request. That does not mean there's still not an opportunity for that to be incorporated into the budget with the House and Senate. And so we are conducting some outreach with our delegates, and we ask that any private citizens can also reach out to their delegates. And of course, that's State Representative Deborah Lekanoff, Alex Rammel, and then our state senator, Liz Lovelet, on your support for the PSAR program and all of its amazing work, but then also support to increase a budget allocation for that program. And we're really close. I mean, we're relatively close. The budget for PSAR came in at 15 million. And I mean, if we have 55 million, that would cover the North Shore Conservation Easement as well as another project ahead of us. So some really great projects to support with those public dollars, and it would be wonderful if folks could reach out to their representatives. And just to let you know, I'll know if for some reason that does fall through, that we are not able to secure that 2.1 million, that means we will be fundraising private dollars to be able to cover that. That will extend our timeline. Our cooperative agreement that we have in place runs through the end of June of 2025. Ideally, we would all like to get that project done much sooner than that if we can secure the PSAR dollars. If we can't, though, we probably are looking at a more extended timeline for us to be able to raise a little over $2 million, the additional amount. So, yeah, Brian, should I stop? And I apologize, Commissioner Campbell, I'm not supposed to do that.
Thanks, Vicki, and didn't mean to interrupt, but your appeal for support for the PSAR grant, if you could provide us with the information, and in fact, if both the trust and the land bank could put that out through their information vines, their blasts, to any supporters and citizens, I'd certainly be glad to write a letter, and I think you could enlist a lot of support.
Well, thank you, Commissioner. Really appreciate that suggestion and the support, and I'll definitely do that. I'll follow up after this meeting with Angela and Barbara, and we'll get something sent to you all. I'll send that to Chairwoman Campbell to distribute to folks. Thank you. And then our last project update is on the Katy Mountain, or the Buck property conservation easement. And this is one that we signed a cooperative agreement with the land bank, last year or even end of 2021, to be able to purchase conservation easement on the 140 something acres for, I believe we're at 450,000 on that. I just wanted to share with you all that cooperative agreement expires at the end of this year. We do have it as a priority to move that forward starting in March, and we will be private fundraising for those dollars. So more to come on that, and I'll be coordinating with Lincoln and Doug sometime in March on getting that easement draft started and having another site visit out there. And that's all the updates from the Preservation Trust. Thank you so much for your time.
That's great, Vicki. Thank you so much. Any other questions for Vicki at this point? Well, thank you again. If you are able to get us those links and the little blurb to share, that would be great. It always makes it easier for people to reach out if they don't have to start something from scratch.
Great, I'll do that. Thank you.
Great, thanks. All right, so now it is time for our county council update with Christine Minnie. You still with us?
Definitely still here.
Excellent.
Not in my car.
Not in your car.
Not in my office either, which I am typically in, but it is a bit of a construction zone. So I'm in my living room, and there are still Christmas decorations up. That's the only one, I promise. Good morning. I am always usually at this point in this agenda selling a lot of different things that the council has done over the month prior. However, it has been a very quiet time for council. In fact, we've only had one business meeting since the retreat, and even that was pretty minor, though we did set 3 public hearings for land bank doings at that meeting. We also have had our annual council retreat, which is really a time for council to, in a more relaxed environment, particularly with a new council member, set our priorities locally, regionally, with the state, and with the feds. And we also, choose our boards and commissions by mixing it all up and letting the chips settle where we choose. And as you now know, I am still with the land bank, which I'm really very happy about. And settling in with a new council member. So though I don't have much to report, there has been a decent amount of the necessary behind the scenes parts that go along with council. As you guys have already discussed, and as it points out on the agenda, I would be talking about the vacancies and sort of the process that we have talked about, Krista, Lincoln, and myself. However, I think that's been covered very well at this point, and I don't know that I need to speak anymore to what has transpired. And I will, in fact, just after I get off this camera, send those dates to you, Lincoln, so that we can, and Krista, so that we can establish when the interviews will happen. And I think, I want to tell you a fun thing, just one fun thing. I was coming home from meetings in Olympia yesterday, and it was like a 4.5-hour drive with all the traffic from Olympia to Anacortes. I got there maybe 15 minutes ahead of my needed to be there time, and I sat there, and the ferry was a little bit late. It's fine. I was loading the dock. You're at that part where you're thankful, hallelujah, you're getting on the boat, it. And yet you're sitting there like, how long does it take to load this boat? And a fireball like rips across the sky. It was amazing. I was really fortunate just to be in that place in that moment. And I actually reported it to the American Meteor Society. And there were reports all the way, from North Canada to, Southern Washington. Anyway, I'm sorry y'all missed it. It was really cool.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty bad for myself right now. So
Okay.
thanks for pointing that out.
Did you get on the,
oh my gosh.
Did you get on the boat?
Yeah, did
That's
you
what's
Yes,
important. Did you get on the boat?
I wanted to go upstairs and talk to everybody. Like, did you see it? Did you see it? I didn't do that.
That's hilarious.
Anyway, happy Friday. And I look forward to, going through this process with you, Krista, and with you so far, Lincoln, and eventually you once you get back from vacation, and have a great vacation. Thank you.
Thank you. I think I hope I speak for the commission. I'm thrilled that you're our liaison again. We've just put in a lot of time and gotten to know each other, and you've been really supportive. And I think we're all looking forward to another year working together. So that's awesome.
Thank you, Krista.
Mm-hmm.
Christine, I wonder if you might not want to say a few words about Representative Larson's visit today.
Yes, thank you. I was too caught up in Fireball in the sky. So I will be leaving this meeting early, but not that early, probably about 10:30. And the reason is that we, as the county, there will be several county staff, including council members, and I hope including Lincoln and potential other land bank staff, will be meeting at Zylstra with Representative Larson at 11 a.m. to talk about the multimodal trail from the town to Zylstra. And those are really just the most basic few words that I, have to say about that. And I think that is this is a really great opportunity to understand a little bit more, maybe where the dollars are coming from and how long this could take, what this will look like all in all. So I will be there and perhaps I will see some of you there. Thank you for reminding me, Lincoln.
Great. All right. The next thing on the agenda is the financial report. Aaron, take it away.
All right, I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so can everyone see this okay?
Mm-hmm. I can.
Okay, great. All right, this is these are financial statements for both the Conservation Area Fund and Stewardship Management Fund. The figures in this report reflect the budget figures reflect the third amended 22 budget that was approved by the council on November 29th, 2022. Just so you are aware, this is reported as a draft because at this point right now, the auditor's office has not closed out the end of the year. They do have what's called the 13th month, where they do a lot of last minute journal entries for interfund transfers and bond payments and a lot of expenditures from invoices that you can submit towards at the beginning of January that reflect in the calendar year of 2022. So that's why this is marked as a draft. Not all of those expenditures have been recorded, although I am aware that all of the big transfers and payments I have seen recorded, so I'm comfortable with where these numbers are. Any changes will be minor to these. So that's just a little forewarning there. So first up, this is the combined financial statement for the Conservation Area Fund. Cash in December ended 77,446 below where we ended in Q3. Most of that is due to the end of year transfers to endowment and our final transfer to stewardship operations and enhancement. Total cash assets between LGIP, the local government investment pool, and cash ended up at about 5.1 million for the year. Of note, the interest rate for the LGIP ended at 4.1%. As most of you know that have been on this commission over the last couple of years, that's a pretty high interest rate for LGIP, especially compared to last year when we ended the year below 1%. So it's not nothing. So I figured I would point that out. That's a good interest rate increase for us. Real property. This is something that Lincoln and I took a look at yesterday. Wanted to explain how real property is captured here. This is total value. This number almost 72 million. This is accumulated based on acquisitions at the time, how much we spent on property acquisition, and the values that those hold. Those accumulate there. The reason that this is asterisked here is because the taxable value of property is significantly lower than what based off of a flat 72,800,000. And if you guys need to refer back to how this impacts your taxes, Lincoln has done multiple presentations on that. So there is some documentation that will help explain that more. And I'm also willing to share links if asked.
Quick question, Aaron. Quick question, Aaron. Is this cost
Yes,
Is this what we paid for it or these?
right, at the time,
Thank
yes.
you. Okay, so it's not market value. It's
This
cost.
is not market value. This is what we paid, accumulation of what we paid when we paid it.
Thank you. Sorry to interrupt. That is,
No problem. General obligation, bond payments. These are for the 4 bonds that we have that, mostly it's for Turtleback, but there are some lumps of property acquisitions that we also have bonds on. We made our second payment of 505,000. We are now sitting at 4.3 in bond obligation.
Mhm.
Right. I'm going to get down to revenue and expenditures for the fourth quarter. First off, let's take a look at REIT. We were budgeted for 4 million, knew that was conservative. We talked about this in the third amended budget process. We knew we were going to be coming close to $5 million, or hoped at that point. We did achieve that. We did break 5 million. If you look at where last year was, I mean, that historic year of 6.7 million, even this 5 million is our third highest. The last 3 years have been very high in REIT income, which has definitely helped with our flexibility to get stewardship projects and acquisition projects done when they've come available or when things have come up. Next, I would like to note conservation buyers program. What we had budgeted here was the 356,250. This was for revenue for the easement on Lopez Hill, which did not get completed at the end of 2022. But as you guys know from Vicky and what Lincoln has mentioned, we are at the goal line here with that in early 2023. But we did not meet that in 2022. If you wanted to see what the interest rate does affect for LGIP, we're budgeted at $4,000 based on what previous years have looked like with that interest rate being so low, and with a good year of interest rates rising, 61,000 is where we ended up in investment income. Fourth quarter transfer. So now under expenditures, our fourth quarter transfer to stewardship, we had 500,000 for the annual transfer to endowment, and our fourth quarter transfer for site enhancement, we did 75,000, which is about 450,000 less than what was budgeted, based on the fact that we transfer in actual expenditures out of stewardship. So what we spend in administration, property management, maintenance, and capital expenditures, a combination of those is what gives us our actual expenditures out of the stewardship fund. So knowing that we did not spend 450,000 of the budgeted amount for stewardship, we adjust that fourth quarter payment to meet actual numbers. So, and we did speak about that at the budget amendment meeting and proposal in November as well. So that's what that ended up coming out to be. Let's see, anything else? The next big one is, again, just our administration costs. 3.6% of our total revenue, and that is expenditures out of total revenue. So we are still operating well below the $10,000 threshold, sitting at 3.6%. I will go on to stewardship, management, and maintenance. Let me back this up a little bit. Okay, can everyone see this one fine? It changed in size when I moved the page.
Yes.
Okay. So now let's move on to the Stewardship Management Fund. First off, we'll look at cash. Cash decreased by 11,000. Total cash assets for the end of the year are sitting at just under $4.3 million. And that is a combination of endowment funds and cash. Go down to revenue and expenditures. First big one on here, sale of plant material is, if you see that number, 32,000 in actuals over the $12,000 budgeted. We did have, Eliza did a great job, and the nursery team did a great job there with both plant sales, both seasonal plant sales in the spring and fall. Working with the Master Gardeners Foundation is a great partnership that we have begun to work with, combining forces to do a plant sale. So it's a great partnership to point out, as well as some plant material that was procured for the landscape scale restoration grant that is being worked on at Mount Grant, as well as Turtleback, producing some materials for that grant and those preserves. Again, local government investment pool, 32,000 over the 2,000. Again, just pointing out the fact that there was an increase in interest rate. Let's see, property, and then as far as revenue, again, just the numbers reflecting here showing the end of year endowment and the site enhancement, where those total numbers ended up in revenue coming from the Conservation Area Fund. And then lastly, just like to point out how we really come up with those and what the numbers are behind the site enhancement transfer. And that is a combination of these three right here: stewardship, management, maintenance, which is a lot of the administration costs, equipment purchases, and a lot of those sorts of things. And then site specific to things being worked on the preserves. We have property management and maintenance and site enhancement, which is capital expenses. Again, seeing that those are significantly below what was budgeted, just due to, contracting issues and, not getting to the projects that we had budgeted. And that's it. That's 2022 in a nutshell. If anybody has any questions.
I'm not seeing any right now, Aaron.
I have a question.
Okay.
Aaron, thank you very much. Just a comment. I was looking at the REIT, of course, and in the fourth quarter, we received about $1 million in REIT money, which is the lowest amount in the fourth quarter in probably 4 or 5 years. And at a run rate of $4 million. Of course, it should get bigger in the second, third quarter. But I think it's important to note, and I just keep an eye on this because our operations are basically dependent on a certain level of REIT expenditures. And while we're still there, it's a trend that I'm curious if anybody has any input into it based on real estate sales and what's going on in the market, et cetera. I'm just not in touch with it. I don't know if you, Sandy, can give me some color, or if it just something to keep. Thanks.
Slowing down. Slowing down. More inventory than in the past, but sales have slowed. Interest rates have made a big impact, and losses in the market, even for those paying in cash, have made an impact. And whenever there's uncertainty in the market in the future, and the public confidence is tentative, people tend to hold off on big purchases. So it's hard to say what will happen, but I would definitely keep our sights lower, and maybe 4 million is the right number for this year.
Mhm.
Bringing it forward, that might be where it is. There's still some big dollar ones that just come out of kind of nowhere, and so the volume is way down. There still are some high prices, but overall the activity has slowed quite a bit. Yeah, competing offers aren't really happening so much anymore.
And did you have a question, Sandy?
I did have a question about the spreadsheet for Aaron. Just a curious question. Under sale of plant materials for Salish seeds, I've wondered if we, when the land bank utilizes material grown for restoration projects and acquires it from Salish seeds, does that end up as a sale of plant material? In other words, do we track that as being as if it was a sale to another organization?
Yes, it's a combination of what Eliza's team handles in-house, as well as what they have to purchase to fulfill orders. In terms of fulfilling orders, for the most part, that just came from the oh, I'm sorry, Lincoln.
I just wanted to point out, I think Sandy's question is really whether we're recording when we're using plant material, are we recording that as a sale? And the answer is that we are selling material to other organizations, but I'm pretty sure we're not recording what we use as a sale. Am I correct about that?
Yeah, what we use, we're not recording as a sale. Just what other organizations purchase is recorded as a sale.
Okay. There might be a time, and this would be a separate financial question, because I think it's extremely valuable, and I don't know if we need to show more of a balance sheet as sort of a side thing or not. I don't know. It's just a question. I was wondering if we're tracking, because I'm sure we use a lot of material, and feels like there should be some notation there that shows that Salish Seeds is producing that material.
Yeah, we definitely have it. Eliza and I have worked together over the last couple of years to work on costing all of the seed bulbs, any of the plant material that we do sell. We do make sure that we go through a costing process, that we're covering our expenses, but not, trying to make
profit.
It's
not a profit, right? It's not
right. It's not a profit making.
We're not supposed to make profit.
Right.
Right.
Just making sure we cover expenses.
I just want Salish Seeds to get credit on a sheet that shows what's being produced. That was just if it's not important, not important, just.
Okay. Any other questions about the financial documents? Great job, Aaron.
Eliza has her hand.
Eliza, yeah, do you want to make a comment?
I just had one quick correction, which is that a little bit different this year than other years. The landscape scale restoration grant actually we billed them for quite a lot of the plant materials that we used this year on Turtleback and Mount Grant. But I think that shows up in a different area because it's grant funding. So that's an exception this year. Otherwise, it's true. We don't sell to ourselves, but I appreciate your point that of acknowledging that effort that's supporting restoration on our preserves. Thanks.
Lincoln, I'm wondering if we're able to get the new commissioners at the February meeting. Is it premature to review the extended cash flow document for an update on reduced REIT? I can't remember. I haven't looked at that. For a while. I don't remember how we projected the REIT amount out till whatever 2035 or something. Anyway, I'll just throw that out there as an idea if that document was pertinent to come back in February for everybody to look at again, given the slowdown and the possible decrease in REIT over the next year or two, just to kind of make sure everybody's comfortable that we've looked at out to the future. That might be a helpful document.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Okay. All right, Aaron, you're off the hook. Great job. Thank you so much. Lincoln? Director's
All right.
report.
Very good. So I will start with the Entrance Mountain question. And basically, while we were entertaining an offer from the neighbor to purchase the property with a Forever Wild conservation easement, earlier last year, we got sidetracked by a number of things. And so have not made our way back to that at this point. I am planning to talk to those folks again to see whether there's still interest. We did have some issues with the easement and what they were wanting to be able to do on the property. But we'll pick that up and it will come back to you at a future meeting. What I'd like to do, I'm just going to push the strategic plan conversation down a bit. And I want to just call your attention to this bequest that we've got. That's interesting. Yeah, here we go. Well, sorry, folks, that's not working. I had something queued up and now that's gone. I'm just going to mention this. It's a brief introduction of this project. I will stop sharing my screen here since you don't need to see that. At Egg Lake, we've got a property owner who's purchased a number of properties. This is on San Juan Island. And they've acquired about 46 acres of land, which includes a lot of Egg Lake, given the way the parcels are laid out. And they are including us in their will. So they're wanting the commission to understand what we're potentially getting, which we'll do at a future meeting. I just wanted to put it on your radar. It's not something that's really going to, we're going to see much of for quite some time, as I'm counting on this couple to thrive long into the future. But it's a great thing, and what I'd like to do is have one of them come and just talk a little bit about the property, and we also should go out and do a site visit at some point. It's a really pretty special place. So that's all. And then I will come back to the strategic plan question, where I've given you an outline as requested of the strategic plan. I'm not going to walk through that whole document, but I am going to ask if you have questions. And I think the important issue at this point is how we proceed from here. So I'm just going to open it up to you all at this point.
Okay, I'll go first. I have a lot of questions, and I shared them with Lincoln already. And I went back and read the minutes from our retreat and trying to find out exactly what our directive was. But I will say, I feel like a lot of work went into making up this outline, but I think for me, it's kind of jumping the gun on a strategic planning process. Like, I think some of this detail, well, I have two thoughts. See if I can say this succinctly. Part of this looks to me more like a habitat conservation plan with all the details and metrics and strategies and whatnot. And when I think of strategic plan, I think of something a little more higher level, governance, visionary, not just feel good, productive, but just a little higher level. And I think it kind of feels like we put the cart before the horse if we follow this as our outline, because it doesn't actually open it up for the initial discussion of our, I don't think it does, mission, vision, you know, how we're doing, where is it we want to go. So that's kind of my just initial reaction, that I think this is a little too much too soon for me to feel like we've done an actual strategic plan. And so that's all I'll say at this point. And then I'll be curious to hear what other people say, and then we'll see what we're doing. So who would like to go next? Sandy.
So my comment on the question you just raised is, I'm thinking of this as the plan being an iterative process, that there does need to be a significant amount of public input that would change or potentially alter how these topics developed. But it feels important to me that we have an outline of a plan that lists all of the elements that we want addressed in the plan. So I viewed Lincoln's outline as being not, this is the plan, and I'm going to go ahead and work and fill all these in, but sort of this is the outline of what a plan could contain. Are these all the things that we want addressed in the plan? No, let's cross these off. Yes, we need to add this in. That's kind of what I was thinking. So in my mind, it didn't feel cart before the horse, but I've never been involved in a strategic planning at all. So I can't say, that's just my gut feeling. So that was my, and then the other thing I wanted to comment in looking at what may be missing from it, having read the retreat notes, that under the administration, where is that? That's on page 2. Setting goals, and then there's administration, cost management, cohesion, etc. Okay. All right, it is there. Staffing. I just wanted to make sure that staffing was included as part of review in this plan, and I see it is there, so it isn't actually missing. That's all I have to say.
Okay. Brian?
I have a bunch of specific comments on the outline, but I think if we're not going to go through it, what I'd like to do is save those and send them as notes to Lincoln and to Krista, if that's useful. What would be helpful to me is, Lincoln, if you could send us an open Word version of that I can annotate rather than a PDF, that'd be great. I guess my main comment, and the first thing that I saw that I think is missing on this, right up at the head, is some kind of a statement of need and purpose for the plan. The public should know why we're doing this. And reading this outline, what I see is not so much a plan, but what I'd call a summary of what we have done, what we do already, and just an explanation of the land bank and its accomplishments as a PR piece for the re-up. And that's okay. I understand that that's part of the real purpose of this so-called specific plan. But I think if we're really going to do a specific plan, we need to do a lot more. And to me, the more means a real look into issues that let me say, a look into what's changed, what's new, and the issues that we haven't looked at before. And I think we have a bunch of new issues on the table. One is certainly how we are going to deal with cultural resources and also with our relationship with tribes. I think we're just beginning to explore that. Another would certainly be climate resilience, climate change, and I don't see that specifically mentioned here. Another that I had in mind that I think Sandy has mentioned in the past is what about potential partnerships and alternative uses of the land bank, of land bank acquisitions? We've looked, we've been kind of forced to look in the past year about partnerships with housing, partnerships that have been mentioned with alternative energy generation. Those are the ones that spring to mind immediately. And I'm not advocating for any of those, but I think that we should take a serious look at them and whether it's appropriate for the land bank to engage in those partnerships. I don't know how that plays into the question of looking at them publicly. But I guess that's what we do anyway. And I think in the end, we just need to be clear, very clear and publicly clear on our position with respect to what kind of acquisitions are appropriate for the Conservation Land Bank.
Mike?
Thanks. Yeah, I commented to Lincoln and sent him a note on my thoughts. I mean, my top level thoughts are the organization of this document isn't what I normally see. You know, I normally see a top-down mission vision working down to critical success factors over the next 3 to 5 years to achieve or move towards achieving that mission. Then priority tasks for this year to help move the ball closer to the goal line. And typically they're under certain categories, but so I was having a hard time following this to make sure I felt it was complete. I think, Brian, I agree with every one of your bullet points to be considered. including the tribes. I noticed that was missing in our conversations and also in the document. I think one of the things that I'd like to see is a focus on fewer items with more emphasis on getting them accomplished. I think sometimes when you have many things you have to do under a topic or under a critical success factor, you end up not doing enough of them. You get spread too far instead of focusing on the top 3 that will make the biggest difference. And so that is something that I thought we could do better and might help us achieve some things if we were focused on fewer ones and focus on fewer ones because they're the most important, will make the biggest difference. I'm also, and I don't know that we did this, only other thing I had was my thought around a SWOT analysis, which might be something you were talking about, Brian, in your comments, but really identifying what we consider to be our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and our threats. Mm-hmm. And those form sort of if those are things that we should be considering in how we're going to achieve a mission, mm-hmm. then they should be discussed, and we should have, they should be in our mind as we're creating our priorities and our tasks. So as for specifics, I think they were mostly there, but the organization, as I told, and it may just be too late in the process. I do agree with Krista too. I think already having a strategic document is pretty, I guess, either indicative that we all really understand where we stand and what we need to do, et cetera, or we didn't really do a grounds up effort to create a real strategic plan. And, I'd be more comfortable with that, but maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just missing some of the things that actually happened in our meetings and the development of this. I think it's a great summary of all the stuff that we've talked about. Not sure it's prioritizations.
Mm-hmm. So Lincoln, can we speak to, because Lincoln, we've had discussion about engaging a consultant to help with this process. So we're not really even, in my opinion, in the process yet. So I don't think you've missed anything, Mike. I think and if we're going to actually engage someone from the outside, which I think is important to do, then maybe we should have some discussion about that, Lincoln, about what you're thinking, and I'll just leave it at that.
Sure. I think we're certainly going to have to engage someone from the outside. And the process for that is to issue a request for proposals. So the critical task at this point is to outline what might go into that RFP. And I think we've got a diversity of opinion on what the plan should encompass. And I think we need to work on coming to agreement on that first. And then we can draft that RFP statement. So what I'd propose is that we have a working subgroup on this of commissioners to kind of go through this in detail and come up with what specifically we're wanting a consultant to do here. Mm-hmm. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, kind of. So what it means is the original, what we talked about at the retreat, was getting this done by the end of this year. And I think that's not really feasible. Even on a good day, if you launched a strategic plan 1st of January, it would be lucky to get it done in those 12 months potentially. And if we're going to go out to bid and we have to be involved in that process, I think that I just want to put it out there that I think we need to maybe ease up on that deadline. So to answer your question, I think, or your proposed, I think having a working group, maybe a commissioner from each island, so we have representation on that, would be great to get that going. And come back at the February meeting with the idea, if we have, I guess you can't put it out for bid. I was thinking we could have any of the consultants that you might have in the wings come and present to the commission if they were interested in hearing from whoever it is we might be choosing, but if that may be too cumbersome. But so that I would agree with putting together some kind of a subgroup to work on it. There was comment at the retreat also that we use this as information to share with the renewal committee, information that we get out of that, primarily public input, the survey, and potentially focus groups and things like that. So I guess as we look at this process, those things can be done and that information can be gathered before the end of the year. It isn't necessarily stuff that you would integrate into a formal strategic plan document, but we could set as our priority through this process, besides us looking at what we're doing, the external input, partially from the public, maybe other terrestrial managers, whatever, that we can get some of that stuff done before the end of the year so it's available for the committee. But I don't think we'll get the plan completed by the end of the year. So who wants to be on that committee? San Juan and Orcas?
I didn't raise my hand to be on it. I raised my hand to nominate Brian from District 2 to be on it. He has extensive experience with these kinds of things, and I would feel extremely confident that I'm just a neophyte looking at it, and I think Brian has a much richer depth of experience, so I would nominate Brian. And then the other thing I was going to say is maybe the first step is that we come up with a list of questions that we want to try to answer, that we want answers from the public and that we want answers from within. Maybe that's a starting point. But again, I'm going to go along for the ride and provide input where I can, but I'm not sure how to get this going. I think the subcommittee is a great idea.
Well, and I think, I mean, the subcommittee can work on the request for proposals, whatever, but I think once we start the actual planning process, if we engage a consultant, that's going to be a commission workshop. All the commissioners need to participate in that. Yeah. Because what bogs down a strategic plan is if everyone's not participating in the discussions, then when reports come back, things get they go back to the drawing board because people didn't have an opportunity to put their input in as the process was moving along, and the consultants can only help put together what we give them, and you can end up backtracking if everyone's not at those meetings. So
I
but in
agree.
terms of getting this started, okay,
yeah, of crystallizing.
I think
Brian is willing.
Yeah. And Mike, would you be interested in doing that since you're right now the only San Juan commissioner?
By default, yes.
My experience and knowledge and availability.
Yeah, no, it'd be great, especially if Brian's on. It'd be great to work with Brian. My experience listening to him last year has been really helpful, and so I think we could move along. I don't think we should necessarily back off our goal of the end of the year, though. At this point, I'm not convinced that that we wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, it is complicated by volunteers. It's complicated by a planner from the outside, but I think we still ought to shoot for it. We have a lot of data. I don't know how much more surveys and things we need to do to really understand some of that, but that would impact the deadline. So I just think we ought to stay with the opportunity, because 2024 may be a big year. Be good to know going in where we stand.
Yeah.
and what we think. So yes, thank you for that. I would.
Great. Yeah, I'm fine not giving up the deadline. I just want to manage expectations. So, and I'm enthusiastic about participating in it because I'm the only Lopez commissioner at this moment. So
Great.
that, yay. But the other thing that you brought up, Mike, is we do have a lot of internal data. I think we have tons of that. And what Lincoln has proposed, or we talked about in terms of getting the outside data, which is mainly the public. Lincoln probably has access to information from the other terrestrial managers, other preservation groups, to know whatever information we might need in terms of duplication or collaboration. But I think the key thing for this process is getting input from the public, and Lincoln has talked about engaging Confluence, who has done the previous surveys that were kind of querying people's use of public lands, how residents feel about tourism. You know, they've got a lot of background in the county right now. So is that another thing, Lincoln, if you went that route, that we would have to put that out for a bid also?
Yeah, I think we'd have to ask for bids. You know, I think that Confluence, I do think Aaron Halcomb did talk to the Confluence folks a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month or so ago, and I think they are available and will participate. What I was going to say though is that they are the only polling organization or analytical organization that I've seen actually come up with a defensible public survey. This is a really difficult place to get a true read on and a statistically valid read on how people are feeling about things. So I think they're uniquely suited to do it, but we'll still have to put it out there to see if we get other bids. We don't have to, it's not a requirement to take the low bid, but it is important to ask for other organizations to see who's interested in doing it.
Sure.
I have a
given
question,
your
Krista, might I
sure.
ask a question? Is the expectation of the commission that the group that we hire is facilitating, with of course great strategic planning knowledge, but facilitating us doing our strategic plan, or you know, as we define their job, or is it to do our strategic plan? I mean, basically writing it, et cetera, doing the surveys, the work, et cetera, because that's two different ways. It'll involve probably maybe the same group, could be two different groups, or either group, and it will certainly affect the cost. So I'm just throwing that out. I don't know what people's mental expectation is of what the outside consultants would do with us.
Well, I think our correct me, Lincoln, if I'm off the mark, but I think we would be hiring a strategic planning group, or a group practiced in strategic planning to help facilitate it. I just think it's hard for an organization to do its own strategic plan without someone from the outside asking directive questions, kind of supporting the process, making sure we're actually asking the questions that we feel are the most important. So that's how I view them. Not so much writing it. The last one I just went through last year, those consultants, they conducted the surveys and the focus groups. They drafted initial summary documents that then the commission went through and, you know, edited, supported, didn't support. So they did produce some of the work that we could then go and make sure it was actually hitting the key points that the commission agreed on. So the way Lincoln's looking at it, I think, is that we would be looking for a strategic planning consultant, facilitator, and then someone who can really give us an actual legitimate survey So it may end up being 2 people. But a Confluence, as an example, I don't think strategic planning is their thing.
Brian,
we
what are
do-
your, Brian, what are your thoughts on what this supporting group should look like? I tend to agree with what Krista said when she said facilitation. I think people that are experienced in doing strategic plans and would help drive us along the way, facilitate us along the way. I don't really know what kind of questionnaires or surveys we're going to want to do. So I think it may be more specific to specific areas that we think we lack data in. So I don't know how much it would be until we get into it. But Brian, is that what you're picturing? And Sandy?
I guess I hadn't seen the need for a consultant, Mike, in terms of facilitation or perhaps writing the plan, but I'm kind of taking this a step at a time. In terms of a survey, I think we definitely do need to do a survey or a poll, and the timing is critical on that. I think we definitely need to do that at some point in the lead up to the re-up election. So the timing in that sense might be very different from the timing of a survey that we might want done to give us information for the plan. So maybe that's an either or, and we need to think about that.
Know why that should be any different. In my mind, they're parallel efforts asking the same questions. But that's just the first top of my mind. Back to Mike's question about the role of an outside facilitator. I think I would pose that back to Lincoln as well, because someone needs to run us through this process and run this show to make sure we end up with what we're wanting. I think that's a lot to ask for our chair or one of us as commissioners. I think that's beyond our ability to do. So I would kick it back to Lincoln and see what he thinks. I don't know what resources he has or, staff's capacity to assist us, but it feels to me like we probably need an outside person to shepherd us through, keep us on track, help us do things like boil down what's important. We've seen how helpful it is even in our retreat meetings and other meetings to have a facilitator keep us, we give him a whole pile, here's what we want to talk about, and he really helps focus and get down into the meat of things. So where I'm going, yes, we need a facilitator. I don't foresee someone writing the plan for us, although when I look at some nice strategic plans, the graphics through there is very helpful. We need, it's got to be a nice looking layout, not a densely written plan. It needs to have some color and photos and graphs to bring it all together. That's what I think. So that part might need outside help as well.
I was interested in Brian's comment that he wasn't quite sure that we needed an outside group to shepherd us through this. And that may be true. I've done it both ways. But I guess part of it depends on the experience we have in doing strategic plans. I mean, Chris, it sounds like you've got a lot of experience doing strategic plans, and Brian as well. I do too. And maybe that means we need someone to help shepherd us through or keep us online, and ask questions, because we're not really independent. If we're part of the group, and ask questions that outsiders may ask. I don't know. But anyway, it's an interesting thing to think about. I'm glad we've had the discussion.
Sandy just said something that rang a bell for me, which is about writing the plan and about graphics. I think if we need a consultant for anything, it's to do exactly that, because that's something that I don't think we have the capability of doing, nor the time. And if in fact this specific plan is, at least in part, to communicate about the land bank with the public prior to the election, we need something really, really good in terms of a physical product that people can see.
Okay, so here's what I would propose. What do I want to propose? I think Lincoln's going to be gone for 2 weeks. So the subgroup, we can't really meet until he is back. And so let's just assume that that will happen in the latter part of February, that we can, and that will give us all time to think about what we're thinking about the strategic plan and what we're going to bring to that group. That means we probably won't have anything substantive for the commission meeting in February, possible. We won't, unlikely to have an RFP by that point. So just to kind of put it out there where this process is going. Yeah, I guess that's what we need to do first. And then coming back after we've had some discussion with the subgroup. I have had a number of experiences with strategic plans, and I find that the ones that are meaningful and can be implemented aren't necessarily grown in-house, because you have someone on the outside to actually open up some potential avenues that you might not have considered. And I think that's just a nice objective way to go. And I think let's not worry about the graphics of it. It's kind of like fundraising. It's easy to throw that party to celebrate fundraising, but we need to do the harder work first. But yes, we need to have some kind of a visually appealing, but it's what we put into that report is what's going to be the first job. So so does that sound okay? We'll wait till Lincoln is back. If you want, Lincoln, we could try to set up some dates before you leave that would work for us. We could do that this afternoon after this call, I guess. And then we'll just kind of take it from there. Questions, Sandy? Sorry. Go ahead, Brian.
I was just going to suggest that maybe looking back through samples that were put together for our retreat, that if we could kind of boil down to, you know, here's a sample of kind of the format and depth or et cetera that we want to end up with, that might be helpful when putting together the RFP.
Yeah, I think the subcommittee can look at, those are some really good examples, and there were different, some organizations basically ended up with 2 kind of documents. And so if we all take a look at those links that were sent to us for the retreat, that would be a good starting point.
First, I was just going to suggest that in the interim while Lincoln's away, and rather than waiting, we just all communicate our initial thoughts via email. Lincoln can either read them or not if he wants on vacation, or wait till he comes back. But that way we'll get a jump on it and can think about it a little bit.
I was hoping you'd have the whole process wrapped up by the time I got back.
We could try that. Okay, so I think we know where we're going with that. Do we need any more discussion on the strategic plan at this point?
I don't have any more discussion, but I think we should set this organizational meeting of this group as quick as we could. Anytime you delay, like if I'm thinking we're going to wait around for 2 or 3 weeks to set a meeting 2 or 3 weeks from now, we've just lost a month. So if we could set a date, I don't know how that works. Maybe you do that, Krista. And,
Well, after this meeting, maybe Lincoln can throw out an email to the
Okay.
three of us and we can respond to what might be available. I'm going to be in Canada for the month of February, but we have internet in Canada, so I can attend those meetings.
quite a
Hopefully.
country.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's quite a country.
Way to go. All right. All right.
Okay, yeah, we'll tie that up before the end of the day, hopefully, so Lincoln doesn't have that. You can go away. Okay, that's it for strategic plan. We could take a break or we could just move forward. We've got stewardship and outreach. What are people okay with just going ahead? Or do we need a 5-minute break?
I need a 5-minute break.
Okay, we have a 5-minute break. It will be at 10:17. We'll be back.
Apparently. You know, it's cold because the curtains didn't go on and it should have. Oh geez, it is cold. No? So I'm going to turn this on the other. Well, it does work sometimes. Okay. All right. It's going to take a long time for this to warm it up. I didn't realize that it hadn't gone on. It's really cold. 62. Hey, Blake. Yeah, he did. But he's sitting here. Maybe he wants to go out again. Call him.
Okay.
We need to restart the recording in a minute.
The recording just continues because you can't pause it on Teams.
Oh,
Okay.
all right. Okay. I have 10:17. Are we all back? Brian? Yeah. And Lincoln. Okay, great. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the stewardship report. As usual, full of lots of great details and photos. Are there any questions from anybody about the report or any staff that want to comment? Peter?
All right. Well, I just wanted to say a couple things. One is that Andrew Jansen just completed his 6-month milestone as the Orcas Preserve field assistant. So that's, or the Orcas field assistant. So that's, an important milestone. I just want to say that I think he's been a perfect fit. He's got, he just brings intelligence and great judgment and collaborative spirit, and it's great to have him here, and I'm just enjoying it. And regarding Vicky's comments earlier, I just wanted to say that while the grant news is a setback, I'm confident that the trust is on top of things, and I as we move forward with planning and site cleanup this year, my priority is just to ensure that we get those buildings out as quickly as possible, hopefully this year. So, because the grant funds were at least in part going to be focused on removing those shoreline buildings. I'm looking at just reallocating funding within the District 2 budget to make sure that we move that along this year. And the potential consequences that will just delay or scale down, or both, the forest management work on Turtleback. So I feel like things generally are going well, and in the North Shore planning process, and we'll just stay on it.
Peter, how
Yes.
about the road? I've been concerned about the road during the storms, and we definitely want to preserve that.
Yeah, Andrew and I are keeping an eye on it. We did a few little kind of tweaks to improve the drainage for this year, but yeah, that's the crux of the matter is, that road. We've been so far blessed with a fairly mild winter, and the fear was that the road might not make it through another winter. I don't think it would have made it through another winter like last year, but in any case, so far so good. But I really would like to get the buildings out this year so we don't have to be constantly fearing that road washing out. Because we also want to make changes to the road, turn it into a trail and put drainage in. So.
Great.
Just a quick question or comment on that. I think I know that it's top of your mind, Peter, but we have to be careful that the appraisal takes place before the buildings are removed.
Right. And so in that meeting with Kathleen Foley Lewis from the trust, we talked about that, and she was going to get together with Preservation Trust staff and kind of look at the timeline. And then we're going to get together, I'm hoping next month as a group, and talk about that, how that'll all roll out.
Brian, did you have another comment? Your hand's still up for a question.
Thanks.
Doug? Can't hear you. You
You're
are not
muted,
coming
Doug.
through. I don't think he is muted, but yeah, we're not hearing you. I'm going to go with Aaron for now. Go ahead, Aaron.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to share that the terrestrial managers group met and there's planning for the annual meeting, which is March 28th and 29th. And the field trip will be out at the North Shore on the 29th. So materials will be coming out, but just to share that and put it on your horizon.
Great. Thank you. Doug, you want to try it again? If you're talking, I can't hear you. I can't see you right now. You're not, I don't have a picture up, but.
It looks like he's trying to talk, but it's just not happening.
Yeah, okay.
I have a couple of things that I will go with. Hopefully he'll manage to break through here at some point. Two things. One, as Christine mentioned, we've got those public hearings coming up in front of the council. They're scheduled for February 7th. One of those is for the council to consider the Coffell lease to the LUMS. So we'll be getting, I think we're in the very final stage with the prosecuting attorney's office to finalize the format of that lease. We should have that early next week. It's quite similar. I don't think there are any substantive differences from the versions you all have seen. So we'll be getting that together, and our plan is to put out a press release on that subject so that the public's aware that the public hearing's coming up and they have an opportunity to comment if they wish. And they will also have the opportunity to take a look at the lease as well. Second issue, we did receive a letter from the Clean Water, I guess it's the surface water subgroup of the Clean Water Action Committee, which is convened by the Department of Environmental Services and the county. And this is regarding our False Bay Creek Preserve on San Juan, which is a 40-acre preserve toward the bottom of the watershed. And we have been doing a variety of things out there, including stream restoration, fencing. However, we're still also doing agriculture and have a cattle lease, which has ended, but we're talking about renewing it. The letter suggested, or not suggested, they're really hoping that we will not renew that lease, and we will pull cattle off of that property altogether because of issues with contamination to the stream itself. So we'll be going through that process, taking a hard look at it. But just wanted you to be aware that we received that letter.
Great. Yeah, it's good to know. Sandy or Brian, questions still?
No, I just
Go ahead.
wanted to comment on what, or ask a question to Lincoln on what he just said. My feeling is that the commission should be involved in the decision on whether or not to release that property. So I would just ask that it be brought to us.
Okay, Brian?
Okay, yeah, I thought we were still on the stewardship report. So I just wanted to make a general comment about the stewardship report, which is that the stewardship report has become something really completely different than it was when I came on board, and whereas it was originally, I think, a sort of a diary for the stewards to communicate with the commission on what was happening on the preserves, what they were doing, what the issues were, and so on. And we asked for it to be kind of more unified in tone, and it's become something much, much better than that. I think we all agree on that. And reading through it, I was struck once again by how much of it is important not only to us as commissioners for our information, but a lot of the stuff is just really exciting and I think of interest to the general public. So my thought for Aaron and Tanya was that this should, we really should find a way to publish at least part of this and send it out to the public so they know on a regular basis what's happening in their preserves. And I hope we can do that.
Thank you. If anyone can see Doug, is he wanting to try again?
I got a message from Doug. His internet's shaky, so I don't think he's going to be able to be on this.
All right. Tanya, do you want to speak to outreach?
Krista, can I talk first?
Oh, sure. Gosh,
Thanks.
yeah, I didn't see your hand up. Sorry.
Yeah, okay. It's Amanda on Lopez. I just wanted to give an update with the Spencer Spit stewardship and management plan. We did an internal review. Thank you if you provided comments. Aaron and I worked through the suggestions. And our next step is to open up that plan to a public comment period. And concurrently with that, we're planning a public meeting that will be an opportunity to comment on the Spencer plan, as well as the next plans in the queue. So Lopez Hill and Richardson Marsh, kind of a big Lopez Island Preserve management plan meeting. Just stay tuned for that.
Thank you. Oh, lost power in Parks conference room. There we go. You guys need to move around more. All right, Tanya.
I'm writing feverishly, but it's not enough. So let's see, notes from me. Event-wise, we've got coming up, Shauna is going to do a reprise of her Beaverton Marsh walk that she did, the turkey walk, not trot, back in November. The one actually that Judy spoke to earlier had great response. And so that'll be February 4th, San Juan Island. I guess, although after listening to Judy, maybe taking a double check as to what the trail looks like at the time, maybe by February it'll be a little drier. And Peter is hosting once a month through January, February, March, the North Shore guided walks, tour, I guess it's more than the tour. So that's the next one coming up is February 11th. And I am still working on event planning with staff and organizations. Some of the bigger ones coming up will be Great Islands Cleanup in April, and we'll have farmers markets. And also Q1 or our spring newsletter. So looking at that and then starting to pick out things for the annual report. Stories for that, highlights. And then also just to let everyone know that there was with our emails versus press releases. So press releases now are all going through the county communications coordinator, which is Aaron. And we will start having county communication committee meetings hopefully by next February or by February. She's redoing, I think, the timing. It didn't work out for all departments. So it's an interdepartmental, county interdepartmental, all people involved in communications getting together, kind of like our subcommittee for communications, to determine how best to go out with outreach as a whole for the county. And one of my emails that went out for the land bank got a little confusing with the Orcasonian about an old heading from a template, but it's all been resolved. I've talked to the LUMs. It was about the Caulfield Farm asking for RFPs from last year. So the LUMs are, they've been informed, everything's fine with them, they understand. I've talked to Lynn, and I think going forward, maybe we'll just take the Orcasonian off of the email list to keep any confusion about what's a press release versus what's just being shared information. So, and other than that, it's, I think, kind of standard operating procedure, answering phones, emails, that kind of thing.
Thank you. Charlie?
Hi, everybody. And just to follow up on what Tanya was talking about, the actual PR was for the agricultural listening session that's organized by the ARC, the Ag Resource Committee. And we've been participating in that for as long as it's been going, a few years now. And it's really an opportunity for farmers to come together to talk about any issues with organizations and ag agencies involved in ag in the county. So I'll be there, and whoever else would like to join from the land bank and other county organizations. There'll be one on each island, the 26th, 27th, and 30th, hopping around. So check out that press release for details. That's all.
Great, thank you. Mike?
Charlie, is that online meetings or is that in-person meetings?
They'll be in person this year, and no audio version, I believe. On San Juan, it'll be, I believe it's either Thursday or Friday at the fairgrounds in the morning. I believe Friday morning.
Okay, and so I won't be able to attend. I was very interested in it. The conversation that we had about Zylster just a minute ago and cattle and leases and things like that probably are going to be topics that will be covered in your meeting. So I'd love to see some kind of a summary that when you're done with it, and be great idea. Thanks.
Yeah, that'll be follow up. It can be, with all the different agencies and interest and time, we usually don't get too deep into specifics like that, but you never know. Sometimes that'll come up, but we can surely engage.
Yeah, no, I wasn't
many
talking
of
about
those people.
specifically. Yeah, I wasn't talking about specifically. I'm more talking about how farmers feel about our lease terms and, how available it is and infrastructure and stuff like that.
Sure. Yep. And the ARC is always available, and others for input on that decision making. So
yeah, okay, great.
We can reach out whenever we want.
Okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks.
Any other questions related to outreach or volunteer activities? Tanya, related to what Brian asked, is there a way to, or maybe you've done it in the past, attach the stewardship reports as a link in your newsletter, just so people have a place if they're interested in looking at?
Yeah, I mean, it's in the meeting minutes. It's all online. Currently, we could certainly have just the PDF on there. And so, yeah, it's easy enough to do. There's always been a little back and forth with staff about how much to put out. So, but if it's something that everyone's comfortable with, and I mean, it's already public, so we can do that.
Yeah, it's already on the website. So it's as public as it's going to be, but some people that get your newsletter probably may not, I won't assume, but they may not take the time to go to the website to go look that stuff up. But if the link's on the newsletter, they might just click through pretty quickly. There's a lot of, it shows a lot of the work that's being done. So I think it is kind of an asset that we should.
I agree.
For sure.
Krista,
Well, it's easy enough to just put on under one of our headings, just the stewardship reports themselves as well. So is that what you mean, just a link directly? Because the meeting materials link is in the newsletter, but yeah, I don't know how many people know it's in there. So sure.
Yeah, that's a little bit too much to wade through, maybe the meeting stuff.
yeah.
Sandy, did you have a question?
Just going back to a suggestion, I think we talked about it a couple of years ago when we started announcing meetings or sending out press releases with the meeting announcement. Sometimes they get published, sometimes they don't. It depends on, I guess, when they get received and whether or not the news outlet wants to publish it. So they're not completely consistent, but that would be a great place to have the link, you know, so it's not just announcing the meeting, but it's you know, what you've been doing now is showing like a picture of volunteers or something happening on the preserves, and it could be a link within that little blurb as well. Find out what's happening on the ground, you know, quickly here, kind of thing.
Brian, are you the other one that has their hand up?
Yeah, I think I'm going to say the same thing that Sandy just said. I'm not sure that we need to or want to publish everything that's in the stewardship reports, but the thing that's really knocked me out in looking at them is the pictures of staff and some of the volunteers doing what they do. It's person to person, and it really brings it home what the land bank is doing in terms of stewardship and preservation. I think it's great.
I will say that I take that stewardship report and the pictures that come in are also a place that I go to for social media posts. So that's sort of a reserve I pick from as well. So some of those things do go out in little, more like little drops. I don't know if that's the right word. Sprinkling. We'll call it sprinkling around. So not that it couldn't be seen more than once, but that is definitely a little bit of my story bank. So
it's great.
That's a great resource. All right, if we are ready to move on from stewardship, outreach, etc., onto future agenda items. There's a couple listed at the bottom. They and I think we should be attaching strategic plan to that. Strategic planning. I guess at this point, I would leave all those there. And if we're going to have an extended meeting in March, that at this point, we assume it's going to be related to strategic planning. And then we'll just see as the months go by how those others. The one I do have a question about, and maybe should come back at the February meeting, the staffing review came up as a topic during the retreat. And I know with the strategic plan and renewal, we have a lot coming at us right now. But I kind of don't want to lose sight of that one. And so we might think about, and Lincoln can think about it on his vacation, how we might integrate that topic over the next, if there's stuff that can be done related to the review of staffing needs and levels, etc., to kind of keep that going and not just waiting till we get everything else caught up, because we're never going to get caught up. That's how that goes. So if we could just make that, maybe we'll have more discussion about that in February. But anything else for the good of the order before we all click off and say goodbye? If Lincoln and Mike and Brian can stay on, we could look at all our calendars right now and then look at when we might want to set something up for when Lincoln gets back. But now to the good of the order, any other comments? Questions?
Yeah.
Brian?
I'd just like to ask if and when we might all return to in-person meetings. I don't know how everybody feels about that, but I think it's really important not only to meet face to face with all of you, but our public. And I see we have a lot of members of the public here. I'd love to be looking at them in person.
And the question would be, would they all be here if they had to come in person? That's the question.
No, true.
I think we get a lot of people that show up because we don't have to catch the ferries, but let's bring that back. We need to start looking at that.
Yeah.
see what's possible, I guess.
I think we'll always be hybrid and I think that that's good, but I'd like to really be hybrid and do it in person too.
Mhm. Yeah,
Even
they've
if
got-
I have a 7 o'clock boat.
So Brian, couldn't you be in that meeting over there? They're in the Parks conference room.
Yeah, the question is whether we can find a spot that's big enough to actually accommodate more of the public and that has the technology to do the hybrid portion of the meeting. So I don't
To
know
fit
how
ev-
big
to
that
fit
Parks
every-
Department office is.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
Doesn't look very
in answer to Sandy's question, no. The Parks conference room is completely inadequate because I can't see people in there. Little tiny faces and bodies. And I've said to Lincoln before, the county needs to give us a facility where we can and all seen and be heard. The county has done that for the EPRC, and it's working pretty well. Some bugs to be worked out, but we need that, and that means some kind of an AV setup.
Well, I can talk to Christine about that, but really their council room is the best place for that type of a meeting, but it would probably at this point necessitate us moving from Fridays to another day because I think the planning
Right.
commission already has that space. So we just need to ourselves look at what day would we be willing to move to. I don't know, but I would suspect there might be some other time slots available that we could plug into. So if we were flexible enough to think outside of Friday, and if
That works.
if people want me to pursue that, I can try to find out before the next meeting what days that might be. How's that? Is that okay? Great.
Yep.
Love it. All right. Anything else, everybody? It is great to see so many people on this call, guests and friends. That's nice. Thanks for participating. So I'm going to adjourn this meeting or conclude at 10:44. And you're all free to go except Brian and Mike and Lincoln.
Thank you.
Go
Bye.
outside.